Good morning. My name is Barbara Gordon Green, and on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, I'd like to welcome you to our program, Mosaic. Our very special guest on Mosaic today is Sharon Faulkner, a freelance photographer who uses her craft as a catalyst for social change. We'll be back with our guest and our program right after this brief message.
I was a very busy pediatrician. I used to make house calls, used to work hard. When I suddenly stopped practicing, there was a big void in my life. Children's Family Service seemed to be the answer for me. I needed companionship, and that's what this program offered me. And it's made me a very, very happier person.
I think it's a wonderful, terrific program for people my age that can come here and eat. I starve to death. All I can do is boil water.
It gets us out of the house and it gets us to be with people, to have a place to come to where they know they get not only a hot lunch, but to be with people and to just be recognized and to be happy.
Sharon Faulkner, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks very much.
You know, I had the joy of looking at your photographs. Not only are you talented and have a warm, open heart, but you tell a story. And our viewers are going to have to be tantalized because on the second half of the program, we're going to allow them to see some of the beautiful work that you do. But I think it would be interesting if you begin from the beginning. What got you involved in photography?
Do you have 34 years? Oh boy, that's an interesting question. I certainly was influenced by my father, who is an underwater photographer, who was leading in that field, and that certainly was an influence to me. And the rest was somewhat accidental.
Really?
How it happened. Yeah. Actually, a babysitter of mine, when I was 9 years old, was over, and she loved photography, and I had a darkroom in the house in which I grew up. And there was a camera, a Nikon camera there, and she picked it up and goes, "Hey, you want to learn how to use this?" I said, "Sure." And we went out photographing, and we went to the darkroom, and that's how it began at age 9. I never thought that I would be a professional photographer. It was nothing I ever aspired to. It happened quite accidentally.
You know, you do something else, though, which our viewers will see later. You tell this remarkable, warm story. And in some of the material that I received about you, I read that at 19 years of age, you had an epiphany, something that happened, an experience that really gave you, in a sense, a direction in terms of your art and your craft.
Yeah.
Would you share that?
Sure. I found out that down in Asbury Park, New Jersey, I live in New Jersey, that there were patients from a mental institution that were being set free on the street. They were deinstitutionalized and left, homeless with nowhere to go without medication or care of any kind. And I went down there armed with my camera to document this and to hear their stories and to learn about that. And I realized at that time the true power of a camera. And it really is, to me, what you can do to help the quality of life for people. My photographs don't mean anything to me as images. It's so funny. Yeah, somebody said to me, your photographs, they're magnificent. Oh, you're such an artist. I don't see myself as an artist. My photographs, I literally could lose my negatives, and lose my prints, and I wouldn't miss them.
Really?
What matters to me are the people that I photograph. That's what has the meaning to me. The image has no meaning, has no value.
And when you talk about the power, that's an interesting point of view, Sharon, unique, I think. When you talk about the power of the camera, there's a tremendous power in the television, because when people see images and they hear about certain issues, somehow or other it affects them more than even reading about it. What really changed for you? What changed your shift? Because I remember reading that initially you were involved in the field of architecture. You were very heavily involved in journalism. What brought you into the non-for-profit world so that you became involved in the philanthropic area?
Well, first off, in terms of architectural photography, it's something that I'm actually very good at.
Are you
But
really?
it's something that means nothing to me. I mean, it's going out and photographing buildings and rooms, and what's nice about it are the textures and the shapes and the lines in architecture. You know, that's fascinating. But I like people. And so basically in working a nonprofit, and taking it one step beyond even corporate work. I mean, I go in and set up, you know, and do corporate headshots. It means nothing to me. So it's basically taking a step beyond that. And generally, nonprofit organizations are involved in doing work that has to do with helping people.
Yeah,
so I fine-tuned it to do work with various organizations.
You worked with the, what's now, it was the former UJA, and now is the United Jewish Communities.
Correct.
And you've done some photographing for them.
Yes. Yes.
In what areas?
What I've been, for the last 2.5 years, I have been wildly committed to a project that I started then on Holocaust survivors living in the former Soviet Union under truly the most difficult of circumstances. And I'm extremely committed to this. And they are receiving assistance through an organization called the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, otherwise known as the JDC, or lovingly known as the Joint. And, you know, I have to say that I am having a love affair with this organization after having seen how they care with their entire heart for so many Jews around the world. It is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you know, I think it'd be interesting for our viewers to understand that in the former Soviet Union, and in Russia as well, there are a number of elderly Jews that are living really at very limited, under very limited circumstances.
Yes.
Very small government pensions. Many of them are Holocaust survivors and have subsequently no support system. I mean, there are elderly that are at poverty level in all areas through the former Soviet Union, but the Holocaust survivors are unique in that they don't have any children or family to help them.
That's right.
And this is what you've made your focus at this point.
Yes, yes. You know, I am often asked, you know, from friends of mine and people that I meet, why do I feel so committed to these people? You know, because in my work and in my travels, I've seen, you know, such suffering and such hardship with so many people. You know, but to me, you know, it's so easy. What separates these people from all other people and their suffering from all other suffering is the history that they have had to endure. You know, first having suffered under communism, then under Nazism. Many of the people that I met and photographed lost a good majority of their families to the Nazis during the war. And then now, suddenly in old age, they've been abandoned by that very society that abused them for 70 years. And, you know, now they have been left to survive on an average of a $20 a month pension. It can't be done. And if it were not for the JDC providing them with, you know, Meals on Wheels and food boxes and loan of medical equipment, and I mean, the list goes on and on. They provide them with the most wonderful things. Necessities that we need as human beings, the basic necessities. Nothing luxurious, but they provide this with dignity and tremendous feeling and caring for the individuals.
You know, I remember when I was there last that we went to visit the warm houses, which I think is such a brilliant concept.
Aren't they wonderful?
Yeah, you want to explain to our viewers about that?
For the elderly that are able-bodied and able to get up and to leave their bed, many of them are unable to do so, but those that are able to, they would gather in someone's home for a hot meal. And maybe 10 people will sit around a table, and it allows them a time to develop friendships and to socialize and to get out of the confines of their home. Which can be somewhat suffocating. And it's a wonderful, wonderful program.
You know, you have a statement, and I'm going to give you a quote that you made, and actually I'm paraphrasing it. Helping others is paramount. We live in a global world. I want you to expand on that.
The way that I feel about life our life, our human existence on this teeny tiny planet of ours, you know, is that we're all interconnected. We're all a part of one another. You know, I don't look at this issue as being a Jewish issue. I look at this as being a human issue, that I have a human responsibility to respond to what I saw and to do everything that I can. You know, there is this invisible cord that wraps around this world that connects all of us, and we have to embrace that and respect it. You know, because really, when it comes right down to it, all we have is each other. You know, for better or for worse, we're stuck on this planet, and we have to do whatever it takes to help one another.
What do you think developed such a deep passion in you? Is it your family?
I think it's a combination of some things. I can tell you this, that my mother is my greatest support system,
really?
Without a doubt. She's a great person. You know, also, I mean, my gosh, when I think back to, you know, my early childhood relationships, you know, and people that were there that were so informative, you know, in different experiences, I think it's a whole combination of things. I think that, you know, we as human beings are extremely complex, you know, and what creates us.
Well, it's true, but some of us are more interesting in their complexity than others. Actually, when you got to the former Soviet Union, what were your first impressions? Where'd you go, to Kiev, or?
Actually, the first time I was there was in Kiev. Yeah, I was in Kiev, and I remember the airport. That was actually my first impression, and it's such an unusual place, just visually. You know, I mean, I think I was just more absorbing the visuals going around me than anything else at that time.
How do you choose? I mean, we talked about 150,000 in the former Soviet Union. Elderly that are being helped by the JDC.
177,000 to date, I'm happy to say. It's moving up.
Oh,
it's
really?
moving up. It's 177,000. And it is estimated that there are, as a matter of fact, it's not really an estimation, that there are 400,000 that have been identified by the JDC in terrible need. But only 177,000 are receiving some form of assistance.
I see.
And that to me is unacceptable.
Well, all right, maybe the program today will change that.
I hope so.
When you get there, how do you choose the subjects? I mean, of all this group of people that are so interesting and need to be documented, how did you choose?
Extremely difficult. It was at random. I literally slapped down at the airport when I arrived. On the table there was a folder this thick with names of people, their ages, where they live, a little bit of their history. And I went through that, and from that limited knowledge, I made the selection.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's an interesting, and there was no reluctance on their part to have them.
Listen, you know, the only time they see another human being generally is when the JDC home care worker comes to provide them with companionship and with food, or if a visitor comes, which is rare. So they were thrilled, because, you know, the isolation for these people is devastating. They welcome companionship and support.
You know, I think that probably is almost as important
as food itself.
Yeah, I remember
I think so.
Because when I went there and I delivered a JDC food box, before the elderly woman even opened it, she really spent time talking to me. She was more interested in the company and the fact that I came rather than even what she was going to get to eat. It was really incredible. At any rate, when we come back, we're going to share some of these remarkable photographs with our viewers. We'll be back with our program right after this brief message.